Let me guess. You sat down to work, opened the file, and 30 seconds later you were checking something you did not even care about. Then you came back, read the same sentence twice, felt weirdly tired, and wondered how your attention became this bad. So you blamed your discipline, promised to try harder tomorrow, and opened another video about how to stop watching videos. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Your ability to focus probably did not disappear. It adapted to the way you live. Your brain has been practicing one specific skill all day, every day, leaving the moment something becomes slow, uncertain, or uncomfortable. A notification appears, you leave. A thought feels difficult, you leave. 3 quiet seconds pass, and you leave again. After thousands of tiny exits, staying with one thing begins to feel unnatural, even when that thing genuinely matters to you. Your attention is not sitting somewhere broken. It is moving exactly where your habits and environment have trained it to move. And by the end of this video, I will give you a 20-minute test that shows whether you can start reversing that training today. No extreme detox, no 5-hour morning routine, and no pretending you can solve modern distraction by becoming a mountain monk. First, notice how your day begins. Before your feet touch the floor, your brain may already be receiving messages, headlines, clips, and opinions. Within minutes, you have moved through 10 emotions, 20 topics, and several people's lives without choosing any of them. Then you open one quiet document and expect your mind to stay there, patiently, while absolutely nothing flashes, buzzes, or changes. Of course it feels slow. You just took your brain from a digital casino and placed it inside a silent waiting room. This is where people start using the word dopamine like it explains everything. It does not, and dopamine is not brain poison. The simpler problem is that your mind becomes used to frequent novelty, easy escape, and rewards that arrive without much effort. A difficult task offers the opposite. The reward is delayed, the next step is uncertain, and failure is always quietly possible. So your brain begins negotiating. Maybe check one message first, maybe clean the desk, maybe research the perfect productivity system. Suddenly, choosing a new font feels urgent, the chair becomes a human rights issue, and you desperately need a glass of water. That is not random. Your mind is trying to replace uncertainty with something easier, faster, and emotionally safer. And every time you obey that impulse instantly, you teach it a simple lesson. Discomfort means we should change channels. The second problem is not distraction itself, it is what happens after you return and assume your whole mind returned with you. You stop writing to answer a message, but part of your attention keeps replaying the conversation when you reopen the document. Then you check an email, glance at a headline, and return carrying pieces of 3 different worlds into the same paragraph. Physically, you are sitting at one desk. Mentally, you are standing in several rooms, trying to listen to all of them. That is why you can stare directly at your work and still feel like your brain is nowhere near it. You reread the same line, forget what you were about to type, and mistake mental fragmentation for a lack of intelligence. Then comes the cruel part. Because focusing feels harder, you reach for more stimulation to escape the frustration of not focusing. The escape makes returning harder, which creates more frustration, which makes the next escape feel even more necessary. This is not a character flaw. It is a loop, and loops become powerful because each step makes the next step easier. Now look at your phone. Even when it is silent, it represents a possibility. Something new could be waiting one movement away. For some people, that possibility alone keeps a small part of the mind ready to check, especially during difficult work. It is like reading beside a mystery box you are allowed to open anytime. You may ignore it, but you never forget it exists. And putting the phone face down does not remove the box. It only makes the mystery feel slightly more mysterious. So the answer is not stronger willpower. Willpower is expensive, inconsistent, and usually weakest when you are tired or stressed. The better move is to stop making distraction the easiest action available whenever you sit down to do something important. Before important work, move the phone somewhere you cannot reach without standing up. Close every tab unrelated to the next step. Do not prepare your entire life. Prepare one clean runway, where the task has fewer competitors for the next 20 minutes. This works because an automatic impulse now has to become a deliberate decision. You must stand, walk, and choose the distraction. That small amount of friction gives the thinking part of you enough time to notice what the automatic part is trying to do. But removing distractions is only half the problem. The task itself may still feel like a giant foggy object with no clear entrance. Your brain does not resist work only because work is hard. It also resists work when the first action is vague. Finish the project is not an action. Open the document and rewrite the first paragraph is an action. Study chemistry is fog. Answer the first 5 questions without checking the solution gives your attention somewhere concrete to land. So before starting, shrink the task until the beginning becomes obvious, physical, and almost too small to argue with. Then make one agreement with yourself. You are not promising to finish. You are promising not to leave for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is short enough to enter without panic, but long enough for the initial resistance to lose some of its authority. Most people wait to feel focused before beginning, but focus often appears after your mind has spent time inside the task. You begin distracted, awkward, and unconvinced. Then the problem becomes clearer, your mental noise settles, and staying requires less effort. Motivation did not magically arrive. The task simply stopped being an unknown threat and became something your brain could navigate. Now we reach the part almost everyone skips. You have to rebuild your ability to survive moments that are not entertaining. Not by staring at a wall for 3 days. Start with small places where you normally erase silence automatically. Walk for 10 minutes without audio. Eat one meal without a screen. Wait in line without opening anything. At first, your hand may reach for your pocket before you consciously decide. That automatic movement shows how rehearsed the loop has become. Do not turn this into a battle against yourself. Just notice the urge, let it rise, and wait a few seconds. You are teaching your mind that emptiness is uncomfortable, not dangerous, and that every quiet moment does not require immediate replacement. Something strange may happen. Once you stop switching constantly, ordinary experiences begin to feel more detailed and less painfully slow. Digital switching can even make boredom worse, because every new option reminds your brain that something more interesting might exist elsewhere. The goal is not to love boredom. The goal is to stop treating the first hint of boredom like an emergency alarm. There is also a time when no focus trick will solve the real problem, because attention depends on more than your phone. Poor sleep, chronic stress, anxiety, depression, ADHD, medication effects, and other health issues can all seriously affect your concentration. So if your focus problems are severe, persistent, or disrupting your life, do not reduce everything to discipline or internet habits. This video is not a diagnosis. It is a way to remove avoidable friction and see what your attention does under better conditions. Now let us run the 20-minute test I promised. Choose one task you have been avoiding but can actually begin today. Write down the smallest visible next action. Not work on it. Write the exact movement that starts it. Put your phone outside reach. Close every unrelated window and set a timer for 20 uninterrupted minutes before you begin. For the first 10 minutes, your only goal is to remain. You are allowed to work badly, slowly, and without feeling motivated. When the urge to escape appears, do not argue with it. Name it quietly. My brain is looking for an exit. Then return to the next visible action. Not the whole project, not your entire future, just the next movement. During the final 10 minutes, notice whether the task feels even slightly clearer than it did at the beginning. If it does, you just experienced the real doorway into focus. Not inspiration, but enough uninterrupted time for your mind to settle. If it does not, you still collected useful information. Maybe the task is unclear, your energy is low, or something deeper needs attention. Either way, you stopped calling yourself lazy and started observing the actual conditions that are shaping your behavior instead. Your focus was not stolen in one dramatic moment, and it will not return through one dramatic hack. It is rebuilt through boring repetitions, fewer exits, clearer beginnings, longer returns, and small moments where you choose not to switch. Every time your mind wanders and you come back, that is not failure. The return is the repetition that matters. You do not need to become a machine. You need an environment where being human does not mean being interrupted every 30 seconds. Choose one task, close the exits, and give your attention enough time to remember what staying feels like. Because the real reason you cannot focus anymore is not that your brain gave up on you or permanently lost the ability. It is that your world became incredibly good at teaching you to leave. Now you can begin teaching yourself to stay. Subscribe if you want practical ways to understand your brain without miracle promises, fake motivation, or impossible routines. We are not escaping modern life. We are learning how to keep our minds inside it without surrendering every spare second.